Okay, we're going to begin with the first of several videos regarding perfect competition to help you for the quiz and the project that is due Wednesday. I'll post exactly what you need to graph, but pretty much it's going to follow what I have up here. Okay, so just follow along and note that there's going to be several videos about this. First thing is we got to know what perfect competition is about. So there's perfect competitors, which is the individual firm, and then the entire industry or market structure is called perfect competition. And the characteristics are you got identical products that are sold at identical prices. There are many firms in the industry, so think thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of firms. And then the market determines the price. The firm accepts the price from the industry and sells things at that price. So we call the firm a price taker. Get that in there. The firm is considered a price taker, gets the price from the market. There are other characteristics about perfect competition that we'll talk about later, but we're just getting started. So here's the first graph that you're going to have to create, the side-by-side graph. So not bad at all. Just know that you've got the graph for the market. So let's say it's wheat. It could be copper. It could be shares of Apple stock, as long as things are identical. The market for wheat is just the supply and demand of wheat. Okay, if we ignore this over here, it just functions like any other market. Supply and demand, we've got consumer surplus up here, producer surplus up here, and supply and demand shift based on how much people want to have gluten-free diets or how many farmers there are in the market, or is there a decrease in the number of farmers, etc. So this shifts based on market behaviors just like any other. The focus we're going to be on more is going to be on the firm. So, I talk about eventually we're just going to wipe away this graph. It's still there. We're just not going to always have it around just to save space and time, to be honest. But we need to know that there is a market. I call it the guardian angel graph because it's there even though you don't see it. All right, and we have the market for the individual firm. So in this case, Joe the wheat farmer. I like Bo's idea of having the beet market, and Dwight Schrute's farm. Very nice. So Joe the wheat farmer, he gets the price. Well, the price is, in this case, $12, no matter what the quantity, okay? And it's the same for every other wheat farmer, is it's $12. One of the things you have to kind of pretend is that Joe the wheat farmer his behavior represents all of the wheat farmer's behavior. Profits, loss, etc. Of course, that's an absurd idea, but that's the only model that we can create to make sense of the market and what's happening. So, whatever's happening in Joe the wheat farmer's business, we say is happening in David's and Sally's and Laura's wheat farms. Okay, so remember Mr. DARP, very important to understand marginal revenue, the change in total revenue with each additional sale. Well, because the price is constant, each additional sale leads to an increase in total revenue that's equal to the price, so the marginal revenue is constant at $12 for each additional sale. D is for the demand curve. This is the demand curve for the firm. No calculation involved. Average revenue is total revenue divided by the quantity. Well, again, because the price is constant, we went through these calculations on the Mr. DARP table. And then P is for the price. The price is constant throughout. As we move forward, it'll be beneficial to know that DARP always stays together. Price is always on the demand curve. Average revenue is always going to be equal to the price. Those stay the same. Marginal revenue will break away from DARP in future graphs. Okay, but in perfect competition, we do have Mr. DARP. But then Mr. DARP comes back, discriminating monopoly, like Michael Myers. Even though I hate Halloween, I know who Michael Myers is. And no, not the Michael Myers from Wayne's World. Okay? All right, so make sure that you're gonna construct, one of your graphs is gonna be just this basic thing, okay? And again, if I erase this, oh my gosh, what am I doing? That graph is still there, okay? So you're gonna include this graph along with this graph. Nice, easy start, okay? Let's follow up now with a graph for the profits. Let me move all our sanitizing equipment out of here. All right, well, we're just picking up where we left off. But we're gonna create the graph in a few steps, okay? So the first thing is this step one. You just have our Mr. Darp with the price at $12. Here's our invisible guardian angel graph of the market, which we're not gonna put in. And I'm gonna put in the marginal cost curve, okay? And that determines our quantity for us. I can't communicate enough how important it is to understand that this MR equals MC, okay? Where MR equals MC is the quantity of max profit or minimum loss. It's the best case scenario. Our way to remember that is Mr. McProfit. And Mr. McProfit's first name, of course, is Max. So shout out to Max Daly at University of Washington. Okay, so Mr. McProfit, where MR equals MC, our quantity of max profit, we're gonna jazz up the quantity and make it 300 instead of 100 like I normally do. Okay, couldn't be an easier start, right? MC is the marginal cost curve where MR equals MC is right at this intersection, and that determines our quantity. MC, we don't really need to worry about that once we have determined that quantity. So consider that like if you have a 4x400 relay race, okay, the first leg of the relay is finding the quantity. But then after they pass off the baton, they're kind of done, right? Doesn't make it unimportant, it just means now we're moving on to the next thing. All right? Step one, Mr. Darp. Step two, marginal costs and determining the quantity. All right, which brings us to our average total cost curve. Well, we said this is a profit graph, so our average total cost has to be lower than the price for it to be a profitable firm. When drawing your graph, just draw a little dot, maybe right here. That represents the lowest point on the ATC curve after we draw it in. Because as I say, MC hammers, ATC at its lowest point, okay? And this is important to get the maximum credit. AP is just ridiculous about this. If you draw a graph and you don't have MC hitting ATC at its lowest point, you automatically lose the credit for it, okay? So we're gonna draw the ATC and it looks like a smile. We come down. I'm gonna stop right there. Okay, after this point, I come up and just make sure that at this dashed line that goes below the price, and here's our ATC curve. Okay. All right, so now we have a lot more going on, but remember, we're only concerned with this quantity right here, 300. Okay, so yes, that dot is there, like a glaring, obvious, like, oh my gosh, that's gotta be something, and it is, but we're not worried about it yet. And we have an intersection over here. Does that mean anything? No, but we're gonna be tempted to say that's a significant quantity, where MR equals MC is the significant quantity. So when I have a quiz and I'm a jerk and I put 350 this quantity here and 250 this quantity here and 100 this quantity here, You just gotta make sure you're paying attention to where MR equals MC. Boom, right there, that's the key quantity. I'm gonna draw in the dot representing my average total cost at this quantity. And we're gonna say that that average total cost is $10. Well, now I have my graph set up, okay? And it's all about the rectangles. I've got my total revenue rectangle, which is gonna be, I don't think green shows up terrifically on video, so it'll be black. Total revenue is 12 times 300, or 3,600. Total cost is 10 times 300, which is 3,000. That helps us determine our profit of $600. Okay, so we've got the big rectangle, okay, the smaller rectangle, and then the thing I call the isthmus of profit, a narrow strip. So I can calculate profit in two different ways. I can do total revenue minus total cost, or 12 minus 10 is 2. 2 times 300 is also 600. Okay? This is your graph for profit. Also want to make sure that we understand that this point has some significance. Let's say this is 100. That's the quantity of diminishing marginal returns. That simply means that after this point, my profit per unit starts to decrease, okay? Reiterating, and for those of you maybe had golf or tennis or cross country and missed the lesson, Y is where MR equals MC, the quantity of maximum profit. The easiest way to think about it is after that quantity right here, the marginal cost, the additional cost of each sale is greater than the additional revenue. So each additional sale, so at 301, 302, 303, I'm losing money on each additional sale. That's decreasing my profits, so I stopped at that point. This point of diminishing marginal returns, that's the greatest profit on an individual sale. Let's say this is $5 or something. That means I made $7 of profit on that individual sale. I still like $6 of profit and $5 of profit and $4 of profit, even 1 penny of profit. Okay. All right. Let's move on to a loss. So instead of moving the camera, I'm just going to erase all this stuff. So I want to take this time to say thank you for helping to make the first 2 months of school a success. Please understand that we are in the midst of a second wave of the coronavirus. We all need to do our part to be safe. Please, if you're not around anybody and you don't have the coronavirus, you're not gonna get it. And if you're wearing a mask and the person you're with is wearing a mask and you're 6 feet apart, you're not gonna get the virus and you're not gonna give it to anybody else. Let's all do our part. This stuff is somewhat important. Saving people's lives continues to be the more important thing. And guess what? It's good for the economy, okay? People staying healthy, us defeating the virus is gonna help our economy. All right, so now we're gonna do a loss. Well, again, I start with Mr. Darp. I'm gonna go through this more quickly since we have some understanding from the first graph. Here's our marginal cost. We'll say that the quantity of maximum profit, I'll make it 200. Well, the main difference, we have the same graph. This is our quantity of max profit, okay? The average total cost is gonna be above Mr. Darp, okay? Again, I'm gonna put a little dot on here to tell me that that's the lowest point on the average total cost curve. I'm gonna swoop down. Swoop is an official word. And there's my average total cost curve. Please ignore this point for right now because we're only concerned about the quantity of max profit. So I'm gonna come up here Here's my average total cost. Let's say that is $15. Well, now I have a loss, right? My total revenue equals 12 times 200 or 2,400. The bad news is my total cost is 15 times 200 or 3,000, which gives me a loss of $600, represented by this rectangle here. And I could also calculate the loss. 15 minus 12 is $3 of loss per unit times 200 is $600. Okay? And our quantity of diminishing marginal returns is right here. Okay, the lowest point on the marginal cost curve. Okay, we're gonna talk about a couple other things in the next video, and we're gonna have a profit graph, a loss graph, and the market versus the firm graph just with the Mr. Dart. So those three graphs so far.